So yeah, so like much like this book, I love that like the WWE is now going to be in charge of education. So just everything I encounter in this life is
Just
all
just
about
take it
fraud.
easy 1 second, okay? Just because you're married to a total shitbag doesn't not I'm not calling you one, but just because you're married to a total shitbag doesn't mean you're a shitbag too, except kind of.
Except when you were in charge of it. I just love the idea of like that level of con and tomfoolery being part of like the DOE all of a sudden. Amazing. So yeah, I got more to say about Conman, but welcome to the 2 month review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter at the University of Rochester, in which we take books, break them down into sections, read them, talk about them, analyze them, joke about them. We are, for this season, doing two books, the first of which is Confidence Man by Herman Melville. Today we're covering chapters 20 through 26. I'm Chad Post from Open Letter Books, joined as always by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox,
Hello.
and not afraid of the WWE's influence on your daughter's education. And then
Oh, yeah, brother. We've got some new things coming in down the pipeline for education. Oh, yeah. What we're going to do first is teach you about vaccines. Don't take them, brother. No.
What just happened?
perfect,
It hurt
perfection.
my throat.
And
That's
that's the
hard.
podcast, guys. And that's the
That's
podcast. Thank
hard
you
to
for joining
do.
us. As always, smash that like button,
Ooh,
rate,
that
review,
is
tell your
amazing.
friends.
And that voice you hear is Kaija Straumanis, translator from the Latvian, senior editor at Open Letter Books. I always feel like there's one more thing I want to add, and I don't know what that is. So there we are.
Fake it till you make it.
So yeah. So if you are listening to this again, please check the show notes and subscribe to the correct updated what do you call it? RSS feed or Apple Podcast feed for this podcast. I made the mistake, and there are two out there right now, and we're trying to get everyone to move over to the same one so that we will all be on the same platform. Anyways, how are you guys doing?
Everything sucks again, doesn't
That's
it?
again. I love this part of the book. I am
It's
in love with this part of the book. Last week I was like, some reason having like a struggle. I was probably like distracted, whatever. This week I'm zooming, and these footnotes are so helpful and so good. Like I can't emphasize enough how much I love them. But I'm also, just to tie this in and to give you guys a bit of background, I've been listening to this book called When the Clock Broke: Conmen, Conspiracies, and How America Cracked Up in the Early 1990s. Um, and it also ties directly into this book, like obviously. Like I feel like everything in the world is like encapsulated in the Confidence Man.
absolutely everything is coming up grifters and con men.
And racism.
And racism. Oh my God, the racism. Yeah, it's it's a lot.
They go hard.
They go really hard.
And this is one where I think we can talk about like sort of the authorial intent behind where it's in there, but we'll get there, I suppose. Brian, how are you feeling about the book after week 3?
I'm liking it. I'm having a lot of
Confidence in it?
fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Um, I'm enjoying the repetitions and kind of the new wrinkles we're getting on the same repetition over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Kind of understanding the patterns, the cadence, it's becoming more enjoyable where it kind of just washes over you and you just laugh at what it's lampooning and satirizing.
So this section that we're covering, 20 through 26, is really interesting. And Kaya, did you spoke last week about listening to the audiobook and getting into the vibes of the audiobook. Did you do that for this week, or did you read the text?
No, I did it again for this week. And
Okay.
speaking of Zooming, for when I looked at the reading schedule, I stopped. I'm at chapter 30, guys. I zoomed a little too far. And I'm looking through and
1.25
thinking, did I
speed.
at 1.25 speed? I'm a fast listener, and I was worried that I maybe like browned out at a certain point and just stopped paying attention. Like you mentioned, Chad, last week there were some sections that were a little hard to glom onto, but I just looked at the chapter headings through 20 through 26, and I remember every single chapter. So like this really, yeah, it's hit the stride, and it's still listening, still very fun.
Perfect. Okay, so I have something to share with you guys. I think can frame the beginning of this conversation that comes from the footnotes and explains exactly why I think this is important. Okay, so chapter 23. Did anyone notice that there are 45 chapters in this book? There are 22 up until Twilight. Chapter 23 takes place, and then the next 22, which take place until midnight. The book is evenly divided around this point, and this is the footnote that defines that. The voyage begins. So they're in Cairo, which is mispronounced in Illinois, and I live near there, and I know they said it wrong, but I can't remember how they said it. But I think it was like Cairo,
Cairo.
Illinois, Cairo, Illinois, but Cairo, Illinois. And the footnote says the voyage began in St. Louis, just below where the Missouri comes from the west to join the Mississippi. At Cairo, where the Ohio comes from the east to join the Mississippi, the voyage changes in nature. Here, where the boat lies still, is the still point which divides the book precisely into contrasting halves, each composed of 22 chapters. Cairo, swampy, notorious breeding place of disease, is also the last free point to be passed on the journey south. From here on, the Fidel will continually have slave states on both sides. From here on, no avatar of the confidence man will appear, as listed by the black cripple guy at the beginning, without master, the Black Guinea. The cosmopolitan will dominate the rest of the action. On April 1st, light and darkness endure equally. So here for the passengers on the Fidel comes the twilight that ends the day. The rest of the action will take place in deepening night, concluding shortly after midnight. So that's one of the ones that I think as a footnote is incredibly useful, because you do suddenly shift gears from all the herb doctors and the confidence man. And we'll talk about that part first. Then this chapter where this guy comes on board with all of his like glitzy clothes. And then we switch into him being cosmopolitan and in some sense seeming to take on all aspects of man. And if we were talking before about how this book, like many of his books, have like this kind of dueling Zen yin yang vibe to them, where there's like things are coupled. We have the confidence man who's trying to trick you in various ways. And then this guy, the cosmopolitan, who's trying to accept everyone in a different way. And there's even like a very key line in there where the cosmopolitan comes on and says, I'll give you a penny for your thoughts. Whereas every single thing up until then was, I will talk to you until you give me money. Yeah. Like it's all being reversed. And I think that that's really like that was one of the points where I was like, this is, I'm very grateful for these footnotes. There's a few more in this section that are really, really, really handy and funny. But that was one where I was like, oh man, I probably would have just like glossed right over that. And now knowing that, I think that like makes this book seem even more compelling and like curious to like analyze, because I feel like I have a new foothold on like what's going on. It also feels like there's no names until this point in time. Then all of a sudden people start getting named, like Pitch. I think that's his name. Isn't that his name? The guy with the gun.
Oh, I just have him in my notes as the gun guy.
Rifleman. A lot of rifles, dude.
Yeah, a lot of boys.
So much rifle, but
so many boys, so many rifles. Because Brian, your edition doesn't have footnotes, right?
I have no footnotes. No.
Okay, and mine does, but I'm ignoring them because I'm listening to the audiobook.
Okay.
So I'm actively doing the heavy lifting on the footnote front for us.
There's another thing for you to to lord over, not lord over, but
lord over. No.
Complain about.
I'm not complaining about it, but I do like reading them, and I do think that as guidance, I'm sure that these other editions that exist, the Random House one, the Penguin one, whatever, Modern Library ones, I'm sure that they have really useful footnotes. These ones have a particular tone to them, and they don't feel like overbearing. They are frequently like kind of interesting, or at least like the ones that I don't like are when I go down and it's just like, look back at this chapter, and I'm like, what? I don't want to do that. And I look back and I'm like, oh, that is kind of interesting. Like, you're right. That's cool. Like, for instance, I'll give you this at the beginning. So we start up this on chapter 20. We have the miser coming back who's coughing all the time and has no money and is like, I'm going to die. I've even gone to the Mammoth Cave. One of the interesting ones in this of a footnote is that he references going to Mammoth Cave for treatment, but nothing helps him. That doesn't help him. Nothing helps him. Apparently in 1843, a group of tubercular patients began living in a colony of huts in Mammoth Cave, hoping to benefit from its constant temperature and rich supply of oxygen. Every patient got worse, and this experiment was quickly abandoned. So it's like an in-joke reference here that like obviously would never have looked up. Never in a million years, but I love that part. But he's talking to the herb doctors like, Oh, well, you haven't taken any of our omni balsamic reinvigorator, have you? Like I gotta hook you up. That'll cure you, that's what you're looking for. And he goes on to say like that he there's these two footnotes. I'm sorry, I'm gonna read these to you because they're just so good. So he says, well, if $2 a box seems too much, take a dozen boxes at $20. And that will be getting 4 boxes for nothing. And
You
you
could sell them.
use none but those 4. The rest you can retail out at a premium and so
Yeah.
cure off and make money by it. And the footnote just says, these are interesting computations.
You sell them.
So good.
Can I
And
just get like 50 cents off? Nope, can't do that.
nope,
All right,
no,
a
no.
farthing. I can't do that.
And then he says, I can't sell it for $1.50. I have to sell it for $2 because I'm pledged to the one price system. And the footnote says, compare the price in chapter 16, which going back the price in chapter
There's 50
16,
cents.
$1.50.
Oh yeah.
That's exactly what he's saying. He can't
Yeah.
do.
If you use promo code 2
Use
month
promo code
review
2-month
to get
review
30% off on your AG1 greens. Whatever ails you, the power, if nature is what's caused all this problem for you, wouldn't it be nature that fixes it?
This logic is infallible. I love it.
That's that's our new cabinet member, man.
Oh my God.
If you just stop with the high fructose corn syrup, your cancer will go away.
The worm told me so.
I'm just waiting for the My Pillow guy to take over as Secretary of State or something.
Oh, dude, I can't wait. What's left for him? There's got to be a fun one. There's got to be a fun one. Could be named like the entertainment czar.
No, I think it's seeing these different characters, all these hucksters and all their grifts. And then like just seeing everyone that's like clamoring for these high positions in government. And every single one is like some sort of charlatan. I mean, it'd be the same on the other side, except they're, charlatans that have a resume that maybe gives them a reason to have the job.
Yeah.
But now there's charlatans who their resume is that they're in entertainment in some way. It's like I appreciate that Dr. Oz probably understands Medicare and Medicaid, but you've been a TV host for the last 20 years. You're a TV
really
person.
bad things.
You're a TV personality. You're married to a carnival barker that broke up every single regional wrestling thing and put it under one banner. And I think there was a lawsuit that just came out where he was literally, him and another person were having sex with somebody and he shit on someone and said, I'm going to go clean up, and left the person there to have sex with them with his shit over them. Like that's the person that's taking, like that person's spouse is taking over education now. Allegedly.
Short term. Short
allegedly.
term. That's not going to be around very long. We don't have to worry about it. It's just a minor appointment.
Unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, you can't write this stuff except it was written, 150 years ago.
Yep, exactly. And it is the same. I mean, that's the thing that like this book, like everything's always cyclical. Things don't really change. But like this book is one of them where it's like, man, you're really nailing something in terms of like what this kind of like grifting did to like the fabric of society where you can't trust people anymore. There's like if you get into it, like depending on like how people reacted to this, and some just continued to believe what the next thing was. It was the knocking, the rapping. It was the next elixir. It was the next like boom thing. It was whatever it might be.
The next religion, the next.
Yeah, whatever it might be, they just bought into it and just go along. And that's a way of living. That's fine. But if you stop and are like, every one of these is just a way to extract money from me by using my gullibility and my belief in someone's presentation, like the way they talk about it, the way they present it. Then you go to this like conman
Or your
thing.
willingness to be charitable.
Willingness to be charitable, willingness to have confidence. Like,
would you like to help me? I should. It's probably my duty to help brotherhood of man. Yes, I will help. Okay, $20.
$20.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now you don't have $20 and now you're beholden to something. Like the system's so cracked and so fragmented, and this predates the Civil War, where it was clearly like the economy and the way that the life was, just destroyed and like uncool at that moment in like so many clear ways. But like things start to really break. And then this con man book about the 90s is like exactly what we're talking about now. It's about David Duke. It's about how they use like, the shock jock Rush Limbaugh to like, polarize people and to like create like various forms of like distrust. Sincerity goes out the window. You have what is his name? Ellen, not Ellen Lane is what I keep wanting to say, but that's the Penguin guy. Ellen, can't think of it. But the radio host, the liberal radio host who would make lots of like more lewd jokes and was like, pro black people, anti-white fear, pro all these things, and he gets killed by like the order of the secret brotherhood that was like the neo-Nazis. All this stuff happens in the 90s, and now we're seeing it all again. Instead of Rush Limbaugh, you have Joe Rogan. Instead of like all these things are keep replicating, and like the idea of sincerity and trust and belief in like anything is so fragmented and so just like broken. Like I don't know what you turn to. And like you keep saying, like we keep saying over and over every week, like we're living in a world now, a Trump post snowflake Trump world in which every charlatan is now just empowered to the full. You can't believe in anyone. The parody of them is them. And that's kind of this too. Like, how do you make fun of the herb doctor? The parody of the herb doctor is the herb doctor. It's just it. It's just it.
At least some things never change.
Some things
Well,
never.
it's every yeah,
Tincture is a tincture is a tincture.
it's every ad you get on like YouTube is some sort of some health thing, right? If I just drink this powder, I'll be fine. Like all of a sudden now I'm supposed to be drinking mushrooms. Like I've gotten like mushroom coffee, mushroom tea. Like, oh my God, if I don't have mushrooms, my brain won't work right. And you're like, yeah, my brain doesn't work really right. You're right. And then I'm not getting enough greens,
I have confidence in
probiotics,
this.
prebiotics, pre probiotic. Like what?
Yep.
Uh,
It's all like, and it is like we keep joking about the word confidence because it appears in here 187 times according to a search I did, and
Okay, good. I was gonna say.
it is constantly like confidence, confidence, confidence. Do you have confidence? But I mean, you tweak that slightly for 2024, and it's like, do you believe this ad? Do you believe this company? Do you believe this
here's
person?
here's how bad my chat GPT is. Uh, it says 17 times. Like,
No.
maybe in a chapter.
Yeah, maybe in a page.
Great,
That's
great job,
crazy.
chat GPT. 17 times? Really?
No confidence in Chat
I
GPT.
don't have
No.
confidence in you. You're a freaking huckster. Get out of here.
Exactly. I mean, it's such a funny word because we don't, it feels so antiquated in a weird way. Like, do you have confidence in me? Do you trust in me? But like now we use belief in place of that, I think, in a large part. And like, do you believe in this? Do you believe in that treatment? My favorite thing about ads is on my Instagram, and I don't think it's just mine. I think but I think it highlights it for mine, is on every Instagram ad I get for like a stupid mobile game, Ozempic. These are usually ones, some cooking thing. Underneath, someone will have commented, "Nice try, Diddy." And that's it. And they'll be highlighted to me as I scroll past. It's just whatever ad it is, it just says, "Nice try, Diddy." I love that. I love that so much. No confidence. Diddy is another example of like it's not just a grifter. It's like you can't like this person promises you things and is going to do things, and you have like a Sheen and they're an awful, awful, awful rotten core Jeffrey Epstein level.
I don't know. I just love the world we're in with that. So we have the grifter side, and then on the other side, it's like every major donor was at Diddy's party, it seems like.
Yeah.
So these are like, okay, I don't feel too good about any of oh man. When does this boat when can I get off this boat? Oh no, we're not even to the bad parts of the river yet. Don't worry.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten into that. And like
Oh no.
one of the things that's interesting about that note too is that we start with like the influence from the west, which is the where the river meets from the west, and we're obviously heading south. But it comes from the west, and that's the frontiersman, the alone, solitary, individualist, conquer the world
Did you
side of
discuss the new
things.
Adam last week?
Only in passing.
Okay.
So definitely let's talk about that, especially in relation to this whatever his name is, Pitch, or I think I keep saying Pitch, but I feel like that's wrong, but I think that's right. Um, the guy with the gun who's like, I'm going down to I don't want boys working for me. I need machinery. He's like the standalone that sort of vibe. And then we get the river coming from the east, and the Cosmopolitan shows up there. And there's always been these hints of like Eastern religion, Eastern influence, not just being like East Coast, but being Eastern writ large. Um, and so I think it's interesting as we head in the second half of the book to have that East-West kind of confrontation and how that will play out. Like, in a sense, like the book seems to be asking a question right now is does the Eastern view of life that's more like encompassing and less egoistic, less like I'm going to con you of your money, and more of like how do I accept you? How do I convince you not to hate Indians? Is that going to provide a pathway to like respecting humanity again, or are we stuck with the rifle guy pitch just being like I don't respect humanity? There's no reason. Every boy that comes to work for me is a rascal and a piece of shit because every man is a piece of shit. Like I haven't met an honest man. So like all the kids are dishonest and crazy and don't do what they're supposed to do because all of their that's what they're going to become. They're just going to become like this herb doctor.
Thank you. Even the gun guy doesn't trust men. That tells you something.
Boom. If the gun guy doesn't trust men, then we're all screwed as
So we probably have a definition of it, like for us reading it today. But what do you think the definition in the 1850s was for the American dream?
mm,
Was it
I,
is it the go West young man? Is it manifest destiny? Like what?
I think it's kind of I would think of it as being that, but Kai, you answer.
I mean, I think of it as, um, I mean, wealth, any sort of culture wealth. I'm thinking of like House of Mirth. Like, yeah, that's the based off of the type of books that I read growing up and in high school and college. Less of the wild west frontier.
I would argue that the entirety of the American dream from start to finish is about land ownership. And this is where like again relating to this book where things go awry is the savings and loans era and like when we instead of encouraging everyone to own their own home, we start encouraging giving out bad loans to make money off of people who are going to default. But like the whole way like you come to America and start taking over land and like the people who are wealthy now are from generally inherited a lot of them are people who inherited vast amounts of wealth from their ancestors at the time of the pilgrims and founding of the nation just seizing massive tracts of land and owning them for eons and that becomes like the renter's paradise. So like if the idea of the American dream is to go west, like you say, find your space, have your like 40 acres and your oxen, control that space and like live there without anyone's involvement. Like it kind of like feels like a libertarian sort of view.
Oh yeah, because there's the idea of like expanding and then taming, like right, take something that's wild and tame it. It has like almost like a missionary type of like connotation to it. Like
Yeah,
this is some savage land that needs to be under uh our Western civility. But then there's like a moral aspect to it. It's good and it's right to do that. And
there's
then
that
when
there's one of the books that like or one of the things that happens around the same time is New Harmony, which the Marguerite Young Angel in the Forest that we just reissued through Delkey is about. And New Harmony is very much in keeping with what you're saying, where these German religious people, the Rappites of Father Rapp, the followers of Father Rapp, come to America, go to Indiana, and found a city in which they are the only ones in the city, are people who are willing to come from Germany and join them, or could join them here, but like they have very strict rules. They
it's
like
a
have
utopian, supposed to be a utopian society, right?
and it functioned incredibly well. They became incredibly like successful financially. They had like their quote unquote border was secure. They generated a lot of money because they created whiskey but didn't drink. So they were selling to like everyone else, but they had the big
Don't
problem
get
of that.
high on your own supply. They knew
Don't get
that.
high on your own
Okay,
supply
all
is always
right.
the rule that I fail at.
The Germans.
They also like decided you can't have sex. You can't
Oh,
procreate.
okay.
So like there's only way to expand
Well
their
then,
thing was through people moving over. And when Father Rapp's son impregnates his wife, they castrate him and he dies because they make a mistake.
sounds
And
like an Annie Proulx story.
kind of the end of the end of the innocence happens right around there of like, but there is like a moral good to it. They're like, we're here to
Yeah.
create a morality of like, this is how society should function because we have a chance with like no previous like connotations. This land is blank. We can put in like a system that's very like essentially what's the word I'm looking for? Like Protestant and like hardworking and like that positive ethic and show like how things can function for the best of humanity and the best of the world.
Until you start in with the genital mutilation.
And once you
Yeah.
start chopping off dicks, it's no good.
They have a place in New Harmony called the Yellow Tavern, and they sell they're known for brain sandwiches.
Well,
Not
there's a
even kidding.
second New Harmony
Yeah.
in the same place. They sell it and it becomes a socialist enterprise. So it's another like attempt at like how do you structure something out of nothing? But
My father-in-law has a corn farms, and they're in New Harmony.
oh,
So
really?
yeah, every time we go back to visit, we have to go to New Harmony. So yeah, I've been there a bunch. That's a weird city, man.
So wait, what brains are in these sandwiches?
I believe it's pig, but I might
Okay.
be wrong. They fry it. It's fried. I've never had one.
You need to do it next time.
Yeah.
Put
I
a
tell them I'm
just
on an all herb diet.
bring back rock in your mouth just for that.
Yeah. But I'm noticing like so we have like so this manifest destiny thing's like an 1840-ish kind of idea. And then we have this idea of it being like necessary but also moral. And then we're seeing when he's satirizing this, like everybody has this idea of morality with everything they're doing. Like I'm trying to help people. Like you don't want to help me help people, really? Like
Yeah.
that's like everything is framed with morality, and it's so I don't know, it makes it like doubly vile, if that's even possible. But
It's
yeah.
I mean it's really on some level a misanthropic book
Well, like
so far.
they talk about like the unforgivable sin is blasphemy, and I never really understood what that like what's the big deal? Like if I say like God damn or something, like really is that like is it taking the Lord's name in vain, or like what's the um
More of a request.
yeah. But like
Indecency.
when you get into like the weeds of blasphemy, like what's supposed to be really blasphemous is framing the goodness that a religion is trying to share and using it for your own power and your own evil and your own so like it's like we must go to war in the name of the Lord because of like that'd be a blasphemous thing to do. Like the worst thing you can do is take something good like charity, helping each other out, and then warping that in order to like for your own benefit. It's like the most extreme depraved kind of evil. It just feels so like not only are you like lying and distrustful and deceitful, but you're doing it at the expense of me showing charity towards someone. It's it's so bad. And
Yeah.
luckily we're not as bad as they are in this book. We've gotten so much better.
That
Well,
is
Uh,
that's one
like, yeah, the moral good of like making wealth to like then create charity is like also a, baseline notion of trickle down like economics and the deregulated world, unregulated world we live in.
well, just even like recently when like the tax documents came back for something like Black Lives Matter, for instance, like how much money was given to Black Lives Matter because people care and they want something good to come out of it. And then there's some select people that get very wealthy off of the charities of others. It's like you just like pick anything you want, throw a dart at the board, and then like follow what's actually happening here. And it's just, oh man, it's just this is a lovely world we live in. I'll tell
Someone's
you
gonna
that.
grift. Grifter's
Oh
gonna grift.
yeah.
is
That should
connected.
be I want a t-shirt that just says Grifter's gonna grift.
I'm on
I would
it.
wear that all day.
I'm on
Yeah.
it. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
Boom.
And
Emote.
there's no high ground that you can stand on and point your finger at anybody about anything because it's like we're all guilty of it, whether we know it or not. Like we're all part of it.
Unless it's our cosmopolitanist, I suppose, right to say that. What if that's the solution? Is like, and there is when I first came to the university, that was like a big movement was cosmopolitanism of like this weird like idea of accepting not weird, but like idea of accepting like many zones of influence and many
Mhm.
pieces and many spices to like the idea, so that you weren't so like rigorous with like, this is the thing that I believe in, so it always should be this way, so much as like, oh, there are like 19, not, it's like a version of multiculturalism, but like more in terms of like a broader base, like looking at the world, I guess, or like, coming from a larger space and less of a like trying to hit all the targets, and more of like, if you get to like a Parisian mindset, that includes X, Y, and Z. That includes all these other pieces in it. It's like it's part of all that without having to be like we have to go to X, Y, and Z to incorporate that. This is not making a lot of sense. I apologize to all our listeners. Whatever. It's been a day. It's been a week. It's been a month. But that cosmopolitanism was like a sort of like trendy. There was a trendy moment where that popped up every so often. And I could see if it's used this way. And I've only read like the chapters just past this that we were supposed to read for this week. So I don't remember where this all goes. And I have not read enough to like know that. But in some ways, it seems to be, like I said earlier, kind of postulating that as like a replacement for the ego-driven swindler. Like because part of the ego-driven is based on fear and on divisiveness. That you could take advantage of someone by saying like the mineral guy sucks. He's a liar. Why don't you
Yeah.
have confidence in me? Believe in me. That guy's a liar. Like he's clearly a liar.
I
And
have a
there's so much of
list.
that.
I have a
Yeah.
running list, or started making a running list of the different types of con men or con people. I think they're all actually men, right? I don't think we've had any con women so far.
I don't know. There's been a woman in this book, short of the one that they pop into and ask her for a donation.
Phrasing.
Whoa.
Took
Whoops.
a second.
Yeeks.
But yeah, but there, and it's things that you guys have covered, I mean, individually and collectively. So people who exude confidence openly and bluster to bull their marks over, or to bull other people over, to intimidate or charm them, those who ingratiate themselves and make themselves little and depend on their interlocutor's ego, which ego thing again, to win over confidence by playing the beta, which I think is in this section where the guy is like, "Oh, sir, please, please, like, but wait, but wait." It's a pitch, the gun guy, who eventually gives the other guy $3, and he's like,
Yep.
"Oh, I even forgot about that. Like, why? Okay, but like, only if you're super, super sure, Mister Big Gun Man." And then the herb doctor who used people who use science and as fact to back themselves up. And then again, that you've mentioned, those who depend on the charity and emotions of others. So like all of those, and that was just off the top of my head yesterday, but you guys have covered all that.
So funny. I've always
Well, you
wanted to
think
start
about
a
too,
cult.
like we have like this men's movement going on, right? Where you like the alpha male, the sigma male, or it's the
I don't know if Sigma is used that way by that, but I know what you mean.
yeah, like it's
Pretty
the
Ohio move there, Brian.
Yeah,
yeah,
skibbity,
oh,
man.
the like the Andrew Tate, just like in it, or the Joe Rogan, or the
Elon
like the
Musk.
Elon Musk. Like it's wildfire right now.
Mhm.
Um,
It's the incel movement, but like with a new cloak on, with
yeah,
like a new boldness.
Something that suspiciously resembles a Cybertruck.
yeah.
Dude, I almost got hit by one of those motherfuckers yesterday. I was shocked that its brakes worked, to be honest. Like that guy came flying out of the parking lot and like slammed on his brakes and like ended like 5 feet from me, and it squealed and shuddered. And I was like, oh God, like this is the way I'm gonna go. This is the way I'm gonna go. It's gonna be like irony writ large. The obituary is gonna be one of like the most spectacular things written, and yet I will not be there to watch it. But thankfully the brakes held. You go,
Hey,
Elon.
it's good enough for Chechnyan rebels. It's good enough for douchebags in San Jose, California, or whoever's.
Looks like such a shitty Matchbox car. Like,
There was one night, it was several weeks ago now, where my mom sent me and Chad just a text message and a picture, and she's like, just walked by this or drove past this in the parking lot. And she just goes, "What is it? Ew." And just a picture of a Cybertruck.
I think I
Like
might have been
honestly had
drawn to
no
that.
idea what it was, but just completely unbidden, anything. Just apropos Sarma.
I saw this article today in the New York Times about this AI curated art exhibit where a guy worked with AI to like he would one of the things was he would draw a thing and the AI would craft it out of like a 3D printer or whatever. And that's what a Cybertruck seems to be to me. It's just like line box and then the AI is like boom, here you go. Here's this like reprehensible looking machine.
I'm
Anyways, more
curious
about the book.
with some of the like more classic references that we're getting does it anywhere mention in the footnotes about sophistry?
You know what? I think it does, but I don't think that's in this particular section. But it does at some point. I'm trying to look for the other ones. There's one really amazing one that I want to share with you guys.
Because the way the confidence men are manipulating logic reminds me a lot of like when you read about sophistry. When it kind of like makes you think of, obviously Aristotle, or it makes you think of Jesus Christ being killed. It makes me think of also the one person that's asking for charity at the beginning of this book is just writing like biblical scripture on a chalkboard. Like actually
Yes.
like here is the truth that you all say to believe in. Here it is for you. And it's like, oh God, get out of here. Well, let me tell you about my, and then they go on to their twisting of truth. And
Oh yeah, yeah. It is referenced in here, but one that did stand out as you're saying that is chapter 22 in the Polite Spirit of Tusculan Disputations is all based on Plato's Meno, and mimics that throughout its structure and the way that it's argued is based on that Platonic or that piece or that whatever that philosophical tract by Plato.
or
That's very specific in there. Um, there is, I'm trying to see what the other one. That's the part where he's arguing about like, oh, you just need to have a better boy. Like you haven't had the right boy yet. Like just wait. And he's like, the one out of 30, the 30th one is the one that will work out. You should have stuck with the 30th one because whenever someone turns 30, they become suddenly much better, right? And then there's this great part in there. Where is it?
that's
And
why
that's
Elon Musk wants us to have so many kids.
yeah, the 30th one will count.
Yeah.
The other ones, they might, not make it. But then there's this great part where he's like, this is in this part where he says, if hitherto, sir, you have struck upon a peculiarly bad vein of boys, so much the more hope now of your hitting a good one. That is such a gambler's fallacy that like, and it's like one of the things I teach in my class about like how your brain doesn't work right, where you're like, oh yeah, I've had a string of bad luck. I'm going to win next. It has to because it has to even out. Right. And that's not exactly how that works. And the footnote does say the hope that keeps all prospectors and gamblers going based on the fallacy of the past deviation from normal probability changes present or future probability. This is like the Bayes theorem, man. Like this is like my jam all the way. Um, but yes, there is like the sophistry does show up in the footnotes. I'm just not finding it in this section right now, but it has appeared before for sure. And that is exactly like how this works of like trapping someone in their own head and then changing like the sort of things around it.
Yeah, I mean it's like so reminiscent of with us just coming off of like elections and debates and whatnot. Like when you hear people like politicians debating, and it just feels it's this same con where there's a little bit of truth in something you're saying, but it's twisted in just a way where you're like, what the hell? Like if you actually stop and think about it for just a moment, in between coughing and wheezing, you're like, wait, hold on a second. None of this makes any sense.
It's yeah, so true. I want to get this in
Well,
before you might have to bolt, Brian, but
yeah.
one of my favorite ones here of so there's a couple things. One of the favorite footnotes is on chapter 25 where the cosmopolitan makes an acquaintance. He says someone comes aboard and says, "Queer coon, your friend, had a little scrimmage with him myself." So some guy's like, "Yeah, I had a problem with that coon-hatted dude with the rifle, who cocks his rifle an inordinate number of times, I must say. Like he cocks his rifle a lot. Like
Because he doesn't have a pen to click.
some of that motherfucker has to go off. Like I don't know how many times you could do that. So some guy comes on and is like, "Yo, I had a fight with that dude too." And the footnote just says, "When and where was that?" Question mark. That's, that's just
Amazing.
sort of level that these things operate at. And then there's a bit that talks about like the relations between critics and whatnot. I want to come back to that. But the other one that I think was really useful is that it starts talking about how the puns work in here. So on my page 201, it's talking about this is part of the like getting into the like why do we hate Indians? Obviously, we all should hate Indians. Like I don't know if you feel attacked, Brian, by this part, but it is blatantly racist. Like it's like not at all like, oh well, here's some like foolishly like weird. It's just like, oh, because they're bad. Like it's like, well, you think they're good, but that's your foolishness being like, oh yeah, maybe that Indian's a good one, but then the other ones are gonna kill your wife. And it's like fucking crazy. And that is the eat your cats, coming for your cats, coming for your wife sort of vibe
They're
today. Right
rapists.
there.
They're all rapists. They're coming out of jail. It
Oh my
sounds like half the cabinet members. Bunch of
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're a 17-year-old girl, you got to watch out for
they're
Matt
sex
Gaetz.
trafficking. It sounds like
You can say that.
half of the cabinet. Okay. Nice.
But
Well, then
but this line has a great thing where he talks about like how in the footnote it says watch this play on words. And this section, I'm just going to read it out of context. It says the judge at last fell into a style so methodic you would have thought he spoke less to mere auditors than to an invisible amanuensis. Seemed talking for the press, very impressive way with him indeed. And I, having equal impressible memory, think that upon a pinch I could render you the judge for the colonel almost word for word. And that like little run of press, impressive, impressible is one that starts to show up more and more often through like the
yeah.
rest of that section where it like just plays with that sound or that one core word into different variations of it, which I really like that part too. The other
And
one I
this
wanted
might
to say
be,
was go on, Kaya. Sorry.
all right, as I say, this might be later on in one of the subsequent chapters, but it does also start getting into more like alliteration and those sorts of word games, it seemed like.
I agree, and it starts to define people with like interesting, well, not super different terms, but like there's one where like when they're defining like the Indian hating and like why the metaphysics of Indian hating, and this is where I wanted to point out that like Melville seems to nod to like why this is racist and bad, like in the title of the chapter, where it says containing the metaphysics of Indian hating, according to the views of one evidently not so prepossessed as Rousseau in favor of savages, which feels like a little tongue-in-cheek sort of like, yeah, because Rousseau was like, I mean, probably still very racist, but like had the ideal of the noble savage, and this person is just like, no, all Indians are bad. Like he does seem to be at least like winking at this that this guy's gonna say a bunch of crazy shit. But then the guy describes a backwoodsman, and this is part of like how you would trick people with behavioral economics is that you set up a number of words that anchor people to like give them an idea of what this person's like, even though you never tell them what the person is like. The backwoodsman is lonely, thoughtful, strong, unsophisticated, impulsive, and unprincipled.
And then don't they go on to say he's basically like the people's hero?
He's the people's hero. His instincts prevail over precepts. And that he needs to be alone. He wants to be alone. If he sees anything so far off, it's horrifying to him, so on and so forth. That sort of thing also fits into like a description of like what people want as cabinet members or as president is that sort of vibe. Isolationist, interior, like keeps other people away, strong, instinctual over thoughtful, like blah blah. It's like all those kind of weird. This book is fucking me up, guys.
Indeterminable self-reliance. It is the destiny of the American.
Oh God.
It is our moral
Davy,
obligation.
Davy Crockett.
One of the things that I had marked in here related to that was that every time these people are running a swindle, maybe this goes on your list, Kyle, maybe not. It's always about essentialism. Like there's so much essentialism, and essentialism is always a dangerous tool. Like, oh, the Indian is always like this. The backwoodsman is like this. This person is like that. Like they have this in their core. They might look different on the outside, but that's a masquerade. At their soul, they are blank. And essentialism, like historically, I don't know if I can, I mean, there are lots of, I suppose, arguments to go against this or to go against what I'm going to say, but is always problematic. Like it's always problematic because nothing is pure like that. Nothing is the platonic ideal. Nothing is like the pure like core of something. It's always ameliorated and has like things mixed in. And that's where I'm like banking on the Cosmopolitan to save us.
Only the Sith deal in absolutes. You know?
For a second, I thought you were going to go into my Kundalini yoga sick thing, but no. we, we don't have any new Kundalini content for this week.
Bummer, man.
Although, again, Kundalini yoga, props to grifters, big score. They really milked that one. There's also one of the things that the footnotes points out that I think is really interesting is there are at least three instances where there are allusions to like oh, what is the famous guy? Casper Hauser, is that right? Casper, the kid who was found that was like older, had claimed to grown up grew up somewhere, couldn't speak the language, claimed to have been raised in a box, gets indoctrinated in society, gets killed. There are three or four instances of allusions to stories of people who are like found in the woods. Kids that were found in the woods had no necessary language. And what is the nature versus nurture of these children, these like man instances of man in the terms of mankind writ large that had no upbringing. What
I
is
think you just
their
gave us the
core self?
plot to the movie Nell, starring Jodie Foster.
Yep.
Another Jodie Foster movie. Let's do it. This is actually just the long con of this season is just to push Jodie Foster movies.
Oh my God. Oh yes.
Well, I don't know. If the first half of this was during daylight, I am a little bit horrified what happens when the lights go out.
Well, did you notice this? So this
And
is one last
we cross we're going into the slave states now. So it's
going
like,
to the
oh,
slave states.
buckle up,
Yeah, no good.
buckle up, Buttercup. What's happening?
Let's get this
Yeah.
on. But one of the things that's super funny, again, I have a lot of like woof, oof, good God, written on the sidelines here. But one of the things that I marked at the end there is just like, oh, this is where these footnotes are truly generous and give like a really great aspect of this book is that at the end of that chapter on the metaphysics of Indian hating, you end with this line. One moment, gently interrupted the cosmopolitan here, and let me refill my calumet. What is a calumet?
I
A,
have no
pe-
idea.
a peace pipe of the Indians.
Ah,
So we have like a real ironic end to this section that we're reading for today, where he's just like, okay, hold on, and he's like smoking from his peace pipe, like, yeah, sure, yeah, the Indians are bad. You're right, you got it, buddy.
I'm gonna need a hit before we do
I'm
this.
gonna need, I need to get a little bit higher before we continue this conversation.
I mean, it was so we talked a bit about the racism in the section last week, and in this one, I mean, there unless I missed it, but there has to be. I mean, like, why are they going? Why is he going so hard on the Indians? It's just I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't
I mean,
expecting it.
okay, so
And
I looked
Brian
this
brought it
up.
up too, and even saying it as a joke of like we're heading south into the slave states under at night without electricity, like without any, we're on a steamboat. Like why?
I looked up what happened for I was going to do like a quiz for you guys of what happened in 19 or 1857 when this book came out. And one of the things was that there is a big spiritualist book about in defining like how souls are reincarnated and what the afterlife is and all that kind of stuff. That's one of the main ones. The other is that there's this huge raid in northern Minnesota where like again like there's a community and a band of quote unquote Indians come and annihilate basically everyone but like one girl that they keep hostage and then give up later. Like those sort of raids seem to be happening, not 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 infrequently, I suppose,
And
at that point in time. So
concurrently to everything that's going on
in
with
this book.
slavery. Okay.
Yes. And so there
I
are
bet
like
not.
and this particular tribe was noted for having sided with the British against the French during that war and then with the British against Americans during the Revolutionary War. So there is like and like there's a lot of allusions to James Fenimore Cooper in here and Natty Bump is it Bumpo? Bumpco? Bump whatever. Bumpo? where they refer to leather stocking, they refer to like all of his nicknames throughout here in the Indian hating section, like mocking James Fenimore Cooper's sort of like anti-Indian, like pro wilderness man sort of bit. So like it
The
is
deer slayer.
the Deer Slayers reference that's in here. That is
Yeah.
exactly in here. So
Yeah.
like yeah. So there is like at that time there is still like real because there's like this is not a nation in certain ways like the way that we think of
Oh,
it now.
yeah, no.
It's like not that, and like there are like varying warring groups of people, and they're just blaming everything on the Indians.
Well, also like nothing's new, as we were saying before, right? Like it all repeats itself. But if you can figure out a way to strip the humanity out of somebody, you're not going to feel as bad to do something terrible to them for an economic benefit.
Take their land.
Sure, or you can work for me and I won't pay you anything and take like strip you of all your humanity.
Yep.
Or I don't know, rip families apart and throw them down the southern border. Like that's a hard thing to do, unless,
Unless.
yeah. And this is like one of those like really big unless chapter, right? Manifest Destiny, like take over the land. There's people on that land. Uh, they're not people.
We're just gonna redefine people. What is exactly?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you guys want to redefine the American dream also while we're at it?
It's
Yeah.
I mean it's bloody, it's bad. And it's
Yeah.
so it's interesting to think of like the way that I mean, and this is hard for me to articulate, and I just like a true question for both of you, but like, how do you think people really reacted to this book? Like, what is like the philosophical thought in relation to rights and humanity and what constitutes like a person in that sense? Like we're again pre-Civil War, so like there's a huge group of like people in America who are like, well, blacks and slaves are not full humans. So we have that built in. But like, if he's like in some way mocking this and in some way undercutting that viewpoint, even if it's subtle, even if it's like a little bit having to be teased out, do you think people are picking up on this? Do you think this book has like a moral charge to it in some sense?
I mean, back when it came out,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I would hope that people would get angry because it's like pointing out, it's like having your flaws pointed out as a piece of entertainment, but I I don't
And we know
know.
nobody bought this book, right?
Yeah. What do you think, Brian?
I'm not sure. I mean, because it feels like I think it's layered in a way where like the top layer of it, sure. Like, yeah, there's a lot of hucksters and there's a lot of swindlers out there. And if you kind of go a little bit underneath it, it's like, oh no, like this is this is America. This isn't just people in America. This is America. This is what we are. And I think maybe that part gets missed because
Mhm.
you're focused on, you're more focused on the characters, their voices, the tricks they're playing. I think it's easy to really get kind of, you know, laughing about that. But then the real sad part of it is, well, what are the institutions that are allowing this to take place? Uh,
Yeah.
that's that's us. That's all of us. Like we're
Yeah.
oh no, like that's the part that probably gets missed.
So
Yeah.
instead of pointing out the flaws, people are, your aunt is going to be like, this is why I tell you to watch your pockets when you go on the trams to the big
Exactly. You
city
can't
and
trust
completely,
people and
yeah, ignore all the
yeah,
actual
yeah.
social commentary.
This book also has like when you're saying like to lean into the behavioral economics of it, it is like that weird recency bias. Like every one of these arguments against Indians is like, yeah, but there was that one time. And
Yeah.
Well,
obviously because that one time,
they broke the treaty on this one time over here, and
yeah.
so therefore it's like, oh, okay,
Sure, guys. So
sounds
weirdly, I
good.
just typed in, I was trying to find out what the sales were for this, and the first question that comes up for Confidence Man is it a satire? And there's this little bit. from some article. Despite the late Philip Roth's suggestion that The Confidence Man is a prophetic satire on the current American president's style of showmanship, much of the novel is instead a send-up of the liberalism of Melville's day. Melville accuses liberalism of patronizing the objects of its sentimental attention and for disappearing into its own abstruse philosophies that are only humane in theory but leave the world no better than before. The latter theme surfaces in the novel's bitterly Swiftian attack on the transcendentalists. So I would think that that's coming.
I was just about to ask, about a modest proposal, but we can wait.
Yeah.
Let's wait till we get a little more Swiftian. Sounds good.
I just wrote for anyone who follows the Mining the Delkey Archive Substack. There's a long article about a Irish writer, Eimear O'Duffy, and Delkey Archive Essentials, but then also like the existence of parody. That includes like a whole bit on like what is parody now, what is satire now, can satire last? And like this, and I think we talked about this last week, Kaija, but like to your point, Brian, I think that this lasts because these people never leave. Like if the satire doesn't make sense if like the thing doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Like when there's like certain things that like make fun of like, remember when we didn't wear car seat belts? You're like, okay, that's not really funny anymore because like we all wear seat belts. Like it's not really like that cool. Like, good joke. So what do you guys have for a line of the week this week? You said you had one for next week.
I do for next week. I think more of a pair. Oh no, wait, no, I do have my I do have my line of the week. Is Yarbs. YARBS. Yarbs.
So my line of the week is Yarbs, Yarbs, nature, nature, you foolish old file you. He diddled you with that hocus pocus, did he? He diddled you with that hocus pocus is one of my favorite lines for sure. Also, the title of this podcast or this episode when it goes up is "You are a punster."
You are a
punster. One of the best lines in this book. You are a punster, Brian. You got some?
I'll go with this one today. Bless me, how cordial a squeeze! It is agrees we shall be brothers then, as much.
No.
Did you? Okay, I can tell if he froze. Yeah, no, your expression was very.
Did you get to hear that, Kaija? Because I can clean this up. But what did you say, Brian?
Oh, you were frozen.
I was frozen. Okay. Hopefully it recorded it. Hopefully it recorded it.
It sounds like the neighbors across the street are emptying out their artillery again.
Hey.
All right. Well, I gotta
hit the road. Why don't you go sell him a bulletproof vest?
Yeah.
You know what? We were talking about grifting, and you know what also is grifting? Fucking school fundraisers.
Oh, for sure.
Remember going door to door selling chocolate bars to the crazy lady down the street with the 29 cuckoo clocks?
Yeah, 100%. And like, so you could get a hat.
Yeah.
Like
a Furby.
No, fucking everything's grifting. Like, I'm like, oh, how could we make some like dumb
magazine subscription?
Make some dumb idea of a bulletproof armory vest that you can wear while your neighbors are shooting off their artillery and sell it to Shark Tank. That's just grifting. That shit's not going to work. It's not necessary. It doesn't improve the human race. It makes me money. Entrepreneurship is grifting. It's just codified grifting. It's just business school grifting. Fuck entrepreneurship. That's my statement for today. Okay, I should shut myself off. If you're listening to this, rate and subscribe. Be sure you're on the right feed. Again, I apologize. It's just a multiple stupid level of problems. Subscribe to the right feed. We will be back next week covering, I don't know, the next 60, 70 pages. It'll be in the show notes. I forget what chapter we go up to. But we have 2 weeks left of Confidence Man. And then we'll move on to Melville by Rodrigo Frazan, who wants to come on the podcast, as I believe Will Vanderheiden will as well.
Awesome.
And so if you don't have that book yet, order that book. You can order it from Open Letter directly. Otherwise, if you're watching this on YouTube, smash that like button, give us some ratings, give us some love.
Smash everything.
Just smash.
That's
That's
terrible.
it.
So terrible.
Just
Bye.
there's nobody's even got an outro joke.
Call it decided with your life on the line and be social suicide.